How did I get so far up front here?
You're very sneaky.
That's bright yellow. It ain't too.
Target acquired.
And I have no long-range weapons.
New target acquired.
Sorry, dude.
How the hell did I get stuck in this?
Getting confused, young man.
Ah, there we go.
Alright, let's wait right here for everyone else to catch up. That was my bad.
Weird. Premium charm changed
Target
here.
acquired. New target acquired. New target acquired.
Try that again.
Might have better luck pushing on the left side.
New target acquired.
They have a UAV out right by ours. Two of them, actually.
New target acquired.
Got two atlases on the other side.
New target acquired.
Let's move up this left side.
New target acquired.
Target spot. Out. Down.
Nice shot at that. Oh, we killed something, but
New target acquired.
Keep pushing up, you got him.
Target destroyed. New target acquired.
got a UAV right above our head. You might want to see it.
Target acquired.
They still have UAVs up over Fox 5.
Like they're coming around the backside of the citadel behind us.
New target acquired.
Got a timber wolf in the little path in between.
New target
tased like-
acquired.
Stupid on Mech, I couldn't get up that stupid hill and it stripped me.
They're all up there now.
And there's another fire getting stuck there. Just long enough for them to shoot through the back.
I tried to push the best I could, but no avail.
New target acquired.
It's okay, we still have a Arctic cheetah. Like 4 inner sphere mechs.
New target acquired. Left.
Worth at least 5 trebuchets.
You know, don't be knocking on the trebuchets.
I can't help it. First time I just wanted to say trench bucket.
Wrench bucket, hell yeah. I have a dual PPC one, it's amazing.
How many arrows up or down do you have to get?
Hey there guys, so you just saw me play the Zeus in a public match, and now I'm going to talk a little bit about the mech and why I built it the way I did, its strengths, its weaknesses, and hopefully it gives you some ideas for building your own mechs and bring some variety to the game. So let's hop into the loadout, shall we? First thing I did when building this mech was to look at its quirks and to try to play around that. So essentially it's got a bunch of torso armor quirks which allow it to have the armor of almost 100-ton mechs for the weight of an 80-ton mech, which is pretty cool. It's got a ballistics cooldown, which is important here. It's got AC5 range, joke, missile range, joke, ballistic range, kind of joke, unless you're playing Gauss, that adds up. But yeah, the quirks aren't really that good. Its offensive quirks could be better put to use for like energy range or maybe more ballistics cooldown. But that's the way PGI decided to release the mech. That's what we have right now, and you can still do a lot with it. So based on the ballistics quirks and the armor quirks, or let's start with the armor quirks first. The armor quirks, in my opinion, coupled with the mech's profile, make this mech XL viable. So you've got 100 tons of armor, you can mount an XL in it, and because of your profile being relatively slim from the side, you can shield pretty well. So in my opinion, although the mech isn't really like played with an XL a lot as far as I can tell, I run mine with an XL, and I'm pretty survivable. As long as you rotate, like I said, you do have a big engine, your torso twist well. As long as you rotate when you're really in trouble, you can keep yourself alive fairly well. So going back to the loadout here, the knock-on implications are that it's a fast assault because you can run XL. Mine runs at 78 kph here. So I'll get to the playstyle, or how that affects playstyle rather, later. But back to the build. The ballistics cooldown, I used to run this mech with an AC2 UAC 5. That is my preferred setup for ballistics on the inner sphere side because the AC2 constantly suppresses and the UAC lets you get some DPS in. Now I went with an AC5 just because the ballistics cooldown quirk coupled with the ballistics module here for the AC5 and the UAC 5, basically it came close enough to the cadence of an AC2 that while it doesn't suppress quite as well, it's close enough, and it lets me run cooler because the AC2 is balanced poorly and runs way hot. It actually lets me cool off and re-engage my lasers without having to use cool shots sometimes, which, depending on the fight and how the scenario is playing out, can be good. So yeah, AC5, UAC 5, and I've got 4 medium lasers to round out the arsenal here because medium lasers both for Clan and IS are really the bread and butter of this game. It's unfortunate that it doesn't have any range quirks for the energy weapons because even with the module, 297 range is kind of lackluster because the meta is mid-range poke. I mean, the mechs that excel at mid-range poke are the ones that dominate because of the way the maps are laid out and all that stuff. So it's a little bit unfortunate. But anyway, then I've slapped an LRM-15 on because LRMs are bad. Now I'll piss everyone off by using them. No, I've slapped an LRM-15 on for 2 reasons. One, this is going to sound terrible, but it looks cool on the mech. I just plain like the way the mech looks with an LRM-15. The second thing is that I use it, if you watch at the start of the map, my team starts pushing water. And any strategy, in my opinion, can really be made to work. I don't think there's anything so much as a terrible position. You can generally make most things work in public matches as long as you have a strategy and your teammates are good. But nonetheless, in the water, in the open, it is dangerous because if they set up your firing line, you're dead. I mean, you can just end up pushing into 12 mechs, and you don't really do anything except die one by one. So I was blind firing the LRM early on to try to suppress, it would be their left flank, I suppose, to suppress the enemy's left flank, just so we could get into position without taking too much fire or letting them set up really well. So that's why I keep it, obviously with, also being able to help your teammates out when you finished up your little engagement in your area or whatever, and you're trying to help your teammates out, you can fire LRMs on your way into the next engagement, which I think will only get better with the changes to ECM that they're proposing. LRMs are going to be viable as secondary weapon systems. Again, I think it'll be very much worth bringing them from now on. Anywho, the last thing I wanted to address is from just the raw build is that the mech is left hand dominant. All the lasers, except for the center one here, but your ballistics hand and your lasers are basically on the left side of the mech. So while most mechs have their poke side from being the right, this mech actually has its poke side being the left. So when you end up going clockwise instead of counterclockwise, you can actually do a lot of good trades like that people don't expect, and you can just catch people unawares, really, because everyone's kind of used to the counterclockwise motion on most maps. That's kind of how public matches play out. You just end up doing the NASCAR, even if it's a slow version of NASCAR. You end up circling each other like that. So anytime you find yourself in a spot where you can trade from the left side, this mech does really well trading like that. And in this video, actually, we ended up going counterclockwise because actually, yeah, we ended up going clockwise, not counterclockwise, sorry. But yeah, the enemy's left flank was solid. We weren't going to be able to push out of the water. Apparently, that's how my team felt. So we ended up going clockwise, which is good for this mech because it lets me trade to my strength. So that's cool. Always keep that in mind and look for favorable trades from the left-hand side. Anyway, getting back to how the mech plays. So essentially, you've got a big XL. The mech is fast, 78 kph. It runs cool. It's got a bunch of double heat sinks stuffed in there. 4 medium lasers and 2 ballistics here. It runs cool. I think you can outfit something like 4 times before you have to use a cool shot. And then you can just switch to your auto cannons and use them until you bleed off enough heat that you can go back to using your lasers. So essentially, where this mech really excels is early in the match, using the speed to put 100 tons of armor where the enemy isn't expecting. This mech excels at killing mediums and heavies early in the match. That's really where it shines. People don't expect 100 tons of armor that fast up in their face early on in the match. You can catch people unawares trying to group up with their team and just wear them down, really, because you do run cold. You have a lot of armor. Against mediums and heavies, you can just roll them. And that's really the strength of this mech. Mid-range poking, aka meta, it's not strong at because the lasers aren't quirked for range. Even with the module I was running, it was like 297 range. It's not really quite long enough to be all that great. At poking, its alpha isn't good. You've got 5 points, 5 points, 5 points, 5 points. You got a 30-point alpha. If your double tap goes off, you've got what? 35-point alpha. It's not really that strong, but your consistent damage, your DPS is pretty good. So always look to engage the enemy with this build in a manner that lets you latch on and just not let them reset the fight. The less they reset the fight, the better for this mech. As long as you're trading more or less one-on-one, you can ride the strength of your armor quirks, your speed, and the nature of this build being cold running to really just grind people down. So that's the playstyle of this mech. Obviously, you've got your LRMs for support too, for funds. But that's generally the playstyle of the mech. And it's not meta, but I hope it doesn't dissuade you from playing the Zeus, trying this build, or even coming up with your own build. Because the meta is always changing, based on the new mechs that come out, new strategies, whatever. It's always likely to change in the future. Weapon balance, oh my god, weapon balance would change the meta substantially. But anyway, like I was saying, don't be afraid to play this mech, play something that's not meta, play to the strengths of the mech, and you can have consistently good results. I'm not sure if I said this yet, but the mech is consistently 400 to 600 damage a match. That's its range. Even on a roll where your team just gets smashed, it can usually put up 400 damage. It's very consistent. It's not going to be 1,000 damage like, ooh, look at me, I'm a superstar clan mech. But it's fun to play. It's engaging. It's a mixed build. And like I said, really it's variety. It changes it up. Because playing the meta, like I was playing all my good mechs, quote unquote, for the tournament, and it got old this weekend. It really did. It's good to have mechs that are competitive and viable. They're not meta. They're not going to be tier 1, but they, depending on the pilot, they can still hold their own. So get out there and, mix it up with some builds of your own. Don't just play what everyone else is playing. Come up with something original that suits your playstyle and have fun. It's really what this game's about. It's having fun. So take some mechs that people don't play, optimize them, and make them work for you. Happy hunting, guys. Until next time. Bye.